Today I want to talk about the envelope or sock drawer method for handling your discretionary spending. Some people call it cash stuffing, some people call it envelope method. I call it sock drawer method. But any method that you're using to take a limited amount of money and put that away just for your discretionary spending for that time period with the intent of limiting that spending that you're doing. And as I see more momentum pick up and more people start to use the spreadsheet that we recommend at the Sheetkeeper Academy, I want to show why we have this allocated into just one line in the spreadsheet. Today I'm going to talk about the importance of this line. We're going to talk about 2 ways to always hit that number, and then I want to give you a couple of free things to help you out with this going forward. I've done some version of this sock drawer method or this envelope method for over 20 years now. And whatever method you might be using right now, if it's that type of limitation you're putting on yourself, where you're giving yourself a certain amount of money to spend over a certain time frame, I think it's great. I don't want to get into the details of what is the best method of that, whether you're putting away a certain amount of money for groceries, a certain amount for gas, a certain amount for entertainment, or you're just putting it all into one envelope and saying, hey, this is the amount of money that I can spend in this pay period on discretionary stuff. I think it's excellent. It's one of the fundamentals of the method that we teach to limit your discretionary spending over a specific time frame. I used to do this with actual cash and actual envelopes, and I know that other people still do that. It's a little tougher to spend cash now, but when I was doing it with cash, we're talking about early 2000s, I literally froze my debit card in a block of ice so I couldn't get to it. And so the cash that I had was the only thing I had until you get to the point where you actually have to thaw out the card. So I made myself use cash, and it worked so well for limiting my spending and being more thoughtful about my spending. Now I use a more technological method where I put my spending into a spreadsheet. But I think either way is great. And a quick side note about electronic tracking in a spreadsheet versus using an app. I could use an app to track my discretionary spending, and I have my spending hooked up to apps that can track it for me. But I still prefer to do it manually in a spreadsheet because I like to be able to go through the process of looking once a day at every expenditure that I had, what it was for, and how much I have left. And that may sound like a waste of time, but first, it only takes a couple minutes, literally 2 to 3 minutes. Second, it makes me reflect on my spending. And I know when I spend a certain amount, I'm going to need to account for that in the future, and I'm going to have to kind of go through a little pain of reflecting on that expense. You know, I used to work with a data analyst who was very good, and there were certain numbers that he put out to our company on a daily basis that he didn't automate. And there was a reason he didn't do that. It's because he liked to manually look at those numbers and plug them in every day and distribute them every day, because it was a process where he became more familiar with those numbers so that they were right on the top of his mind. And I thought it was a fantastic way to really internalize some of the most important numbers we had in our business. I do the same thing with my discretionary spending. I make sure that I'm very familiar with what I spent money on, where it went, and how much I have left. Even better, if you're willing to take actual cash and put it into an envelope and put it someplace where it needs to be taken out to be used. Awesome. Now let me tell you a short story about discretionary spending. I usually wear just a t-shirt when I do these videos because that's what I wear all the time. I had my eye on this specific, it's called a shirt jacket.
This is a very nice item.
I know
this thing. Look, it's like it's a half jacket, half shirt. You don't even know what it is.
It's a shirt, but it's also a jacket. It's both. I had my eye on this thing for months, and I didn't buy it. Why? Because I didn't have that money allocated in my discretionary spending. I saw it in November at this store, but I didn't buy it. Because if I bought it, it would definitely push my discretionary spending to a place where it'd be very difficult to make that target for a 2-week period. And I got this really nice gift card to that store from my in-laws. It was a thank you kind of a thing, and they were so nice to get it for me, and it was like, okay, I can afford this now. I still had to add a little bit of my own money, but I went in to buy it. And that amount, even though it was small, actually still pressed me a little to be able to hit my discretionary spending number for 2 weeks. So the few days after I bought it, I actually had to make a focused effort to back off on other spending. So I didn't drive any place for a few days. I work from here and I don't have to go out of the house. So I didn't spend any money on gas. I only ate stuff out of the refrigerator, what I already had. I made sure to limit that spending so that I would still hit that number in 2 weeks. And I tell you this story specifically for this reason, because I want you to know that if you're in a position, and many people are right now, where you have to hit that discretionary spending number. You can only spend what's in your envelope, or else you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. You're going to have to dig into emergency savings or may not have emergency savings built up yet. I want you to know that that is a skill that you'll be able to use forever. And what you're doing right now by having to budget in that way is something that you should continue to do no matter what. I was in a position like that at one point in my life. I used the sock drawer method where I only had a specific amount of cash to spend to get out of that position. But then once I was out of that position, I still use that. I still put a number on myself. I still don't just go buy something just because it's something that I want. I want to limit that spending and be very familiar with that spending as it happens. And so I'm fortunate now to be in a different position. I've had a long corporate career. I have a lot more saved up, and I'm not in that same position where this has to work or else it's going to be a disaster. But I still do it. I do it because I still have expenses. I mean, we've got kids that are going to go to college. We've got a house with a mortgage. I don't have any other debts, but those things are things I need to plan for, and I need to hit my discretionary spending target for in order to make those work. And I think no matter where you're at financially, this is a skill. Disciplining yourself to spend only a certain amount in a certain period of time is a skill and a habit that will last you a long time. And now I'll tell you this, if you're looking forward to a time like that where it's a little bit easier, I'll say, even though I still put this limitation on myself, I understand it is a little bit easier because the worst case scenario is not near as bad. And so you do have that to look forward to. But don't just think that once you save up a certain amount of money, once you're out of your credit card debt, that everything's just going to be free-flowing and you can spend whatever you want and everything's easy. I don't think you should ever make it that way. And most people aren't ever in a position where it gets that way. But it's a little bit more fun because you know the worst case scenario isn't as bad, and you can widen that amount a little bit. You can set aside more every couple of weeks to spend and make it easier on yourself. My point here is no matter how much you're putting in your envelopes, you're developing a skill and you're developing discipline that will last for your financial lifetime. So let's talk about this line in the spreadsheet specifically where we have food, gas, and entertainment all in one line. There's a reason it's all in one line like that. No matter what happens between the categories, even if you've divvied it up in envelopes, that discretionary spending number gets hit. And the reason for that is you can see in the spreadsheet that your ability to hit this number directly affects your ability to stay on your plan over a long, long time. And the better you get at hitting that number on a biweekly basis or whatever pay period you use it for, the better you get at hitting that number, the more accurate your plan becomes, and the more you can depend on yourself and your financial plan to truly be there for you in the future. All right, so we've established the importance of hitting that number to our planning. And now what I want to do is give you two different ways to help hit that number on a regular basis. Number one way to make sure that you hit your discretionary number that you planned for on a regular basis is to keep the time period short. So what I mean by that is if you're planning on a month of expenses, hitting a discretionary number for a month can be really hard. Planning 4 weeks out and saying, I have X dollars to be able to spend in that 4 weeks, there's a lot that comes up in a month. If you can shorten that down to 2 weeks or even 1 week and say, my envelope is for this week, my envelope is for this pay period, it enables you to have a little bit more control over that discretionary spending. And also a refresh when the next paycheck comes around or when that pay period ends, you know, I've got the same amount coming back and I get to spend that on whatever I need to in that pay period. Keep the window short. Okay, the second thing, when it comes to discretionary spending and making sure you only spend a certain amount in a given time period, allow the fluidity between those categories of spending. If you look at the rest of the expenses on the spreadsheet, they're all fixed expenses. Things like your rent or your utilities like your electric bill, your cell phone bill, whatever they may be, tend to stay fixed on a monthly basis, and they're very difficult to change. It's tough to change your rent. It would probably take you 3 months, 6 months to find a different place or to bring in a roommate, whatever you need to do. Your utilities are probably going to be what they are. You can try your best to save on those. You can use less electricity, but really you're a month out from that changing. And from what I've found, It's not going to change a lot. And they'll be seasonal, but relatively fixed. You're going to have to pay those, so they have their own lines. Your cell phone bill, probably about the same every month. But your discretionary, those things, food, gas, and entertainment, those are squishy. Those are things that you can decide on a daily basis what you're going to spend. You can decide you're going to drive less. You can decide I'm only going to use this car to get back and forth to work for the next 2 weeks. You can decide you're going to spend less on food. Whatever it is you usually buy, you're going to buy something different this week. You're going to sub in different ingredients. You're going to go on whatever you've got left in the pantry, whatever's left in the fridge. And there's some fluidity between the categories. So maybe you do something for entertainment every week and you decide, no, I'm not going to do that this week. This week, I'm going to buy the shirt jacket. Or this week, I'm going to go on a special date. This week, I'm going to go to a restaurant I never go to. And you can plan for that and take some of the money out of those other categories. So I like to put it all in one line. And I like to put all of that money, so to speak, in one envelope so that you can still have some fluidity between those categories. But the most important thing is you hit that number. Now, if it helps you individually to split that up and to make those categories even smaller, and that's part of your plan and it works, great. I can't criticize that. But the reason that we just put it into one line in the Sheetkeeper Academy courses and in what we teach is because it allows you to have that fluidity, recognizing the most important thing you do is hit that discretionary spending number. If you get too precise about each of those categories, it can be even more difficult to maintain this plan, and that drains your willpower. And when you're trying to do it, you're thinking, this doesn't feel right, this isn't working for me. So just having that one envelope, that one amount of cash, or that one amount of money that's allocated to discretionary spending on a regular basis, and making sure that you hit that number using all resources available to you. Anywhere you can scrimp, anywhere you need to spend more, can be a little fluid. It will allow you to feel better about hitting that number every couple weeks. Now, if you're saying one of those things is a number that is very fixed, your gas, for example, if you drive the same amount every 2 weeks and you can count on that, okay, you can move it to its own fixed expense line. I think that's fine. I think it depends on your situation. For me, and I think for many people, those items, those food, gas, entertainment items can be a little fluid, and you can allow those to move between categories as long as you hit that spending number. And I'll give you a quick extra tip because it's on my mind when I'm thinking about this. If your goal is to spend a specific amount on discretionary spending like food, gas, and entertainment every 2 weeks, one thing that can help is to practice a little bit of a fast. Just like you might fast for eating on a certain diet plan, you can fast with your spending as well. You can say, well, I spent a little bit too much going into this pay period. My envelopes are getting a little bit thinner than I wanted them to be. I'm going to take a day and I'm going to have a no spend day and I'm going to get back on track. And the better you get at doing that and recognizing I can get through a day without spending a dime and I have different little techniques that I can do to make that happen, the better you are able to control this on a longer timeline. So now you understand why we have that in one line on the spreadsheet. I think you should try these methods if you haven't before. They can be very helpful in developing the right systems and habits that you can use for a long time going forward. And let me know about your envelope system in the comments. Do you have one that works really well for you? I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to share that on this channel with others in the case that it might help them. And if you want the spreadsheet that you see here, I'm going to leave a link to it so that you can grab it, download it. You can build like Legos. You can grab that spreadsheet and then modify it a little bit in the way that you want to and customize it. And I'm also going to leave you a link to the course that teaches you how to build that spreadsheet from scratch at sheetkeeperacademy.com. You can learn more about what we do there. The course is available for now as of February 2026 for free. Later, there's going to be a charge for it. And also, if you're interested in introducing this to organizations like your kid's school, like your employer, or like an organization that you're a member of, Sheetkeeper Academy provides that institutional resource and white labeling that can help organizations as well as individuals. I'd love to have you do that. But for now, take a look at this next video to learn a little bit more about the system that we teach. Thanks for watching.